The emergency beacon pierced through the void like a dying scream. Queen Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the viewport of her flagship, watching debris spiral through the darkness. Twisted metal, shattered hull plates, and something else. A life pod, barely intact, tumbling end over end toward the gas giant's crushing embrace. "Your Majesty, we should maintain safe distance," Admiral Chen warned from behind her. "Unknown vessel, unknown survivors. Protocol demands we save lives first." Elena's voice carried the quiet authority that had united 3 solar systems under her crown. "Bring that pod aboard." The rescue bay's atmosphere processors hissed as the mangled pod settled onto the deck. Elena descended the stairs herself, flanked by a royal guard, their plasma rifles ready but lowered. The pod's hull bore markings she'd never seen, elegant curves and geometric patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Chief Medical Officer Torres ran his scanner over the pod's surface. Single occupant. Alive, but barely. The metal, it's not from any known alloy in our database. Elena studied the alien script etched into the pod's surface. Beautiful. Desperate. A final prayer written in a language humanity had never encountered. Cut it open. The plasma torch carved through the pod's seal with surgical precision. As the top half lifted away, Elena's breath caught. Inside lay a figure that could have been her sister, if her sister had skin like polished silver and hair that moved like liquid starlight. The being's clothing was torn, revealing wounds that bled something closer to mercury than blood. "Magnificent," Torres whispered, his scanner beeping frantically. "Cellular structure unlike anything we've cataloged. But she's dying. Minutes, maybe less." Elena knelt beside the pod. The alien's eyes fluttered open, deep violet, like nebulae seen from afar. They found Elena's face and held there, intelligent and afraid. The being's lips moved. Elena leaned closer. "Kethvala?" "Neth Zephyris." The words came out broken, desperate. The alien's hand lifted, trembling, reaching for Elena's face. Against every protocol, Elena led her. The silver fingers touched her cheek, and suddenly the world exploded into images. Fleets of crystal ships burning in space, cities of impossible beauty crumbling under bombardment, millions of voices crying out as they were silenced forever. Elena gasped, pulling back. The alien's hand fell, but her eyes remained locked on the Queen's face. "Zephyris," the being whispered again, and this time Elena understood. Not a word. A name. The name of a world that no longer existed. "Get her to medical. Now." Elena stood, her hands shaking. The images still burned behind her eyes. The last moments of an entire civilization, transferred through a touch. As the medical team rushed the alien away, Elena turned to Admiral Chen. What happened to her ship? Still analyzing the debris, but initial scans suggest complete molecular disintegration. Whatever weapon caused this turned solid matter into component atoms. Nothing should have survived. Elena watched the medical team disappear down the corridor, but she did. "Your Majesty." Chen's voice carried a warning. This could be a trap. First contact protocols exist for civilizations that still exist. Elena's voice cut through his objections. "What I saw? Admiral, we just found the lone survivor of genocide." In the medical bay, alarms began to sound. Elena ran, her royal guard struggling to keep pace. She burst through the doors to find Torres working frantically over the alien woman. "She's rejecting everything," Torres called out. "Human medicine, synthetic alternatives. Her body won't accept any of it. She's fighting to stay alive, but..." The alien's eyes found Elena again. With tremendous effort, she raised her hand. Elena took it without hesitation. More images flooded her mind. Not memories this time, but knowledge. Star charts, technology, the location of other refugee ships scattered across the galaxy, and something else. "A warning. They're coming," Elena whispered, interpreting what she'd seen. "The ones who destroyed Zephyris? They're following the refugee trails." The alien nodded weakly. Her grip tightened. "How long?" Elena asked. The dying woman's lips moved. "Vetala Kor. 3 days." Elena felt the weight of two worlds settling on her shoulders, her own human empire and the scattered remnants of this woman's people. In 3 days, the destroyers would arrive. In 3 days, everything would change. The alien's breathing grew shallower. Her mercury blood had stopped flowing from her wounds, not from healing, but from running out. "What's your name?" Elena asked softly. "Lyralei," came the whispered response. "Guardian of the last children." Elena's blood froze. Children! There are children among the survivors. Lyralei's violet eyes closed. Her hand went limp in Elena's grasp, but not before she whispered one final word. "Yes." The monitors flatlined. In the sudden silence, Elena stared at the peaceful face of the woman who had just made her responsible for saving 2 species. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, unaware that war was coming to shatter the quiet of space. 3 days. Elena had 3 days to prepare for an enemy that could disintegrate matter itself, to find refugee ships scattered across the galaxy, and to become the protector of children whose world had been murdered. The real question wasn't whether humanity was ready for this fight. The question was whether Elena Vasquez, Queen of the Solar Alliance, could become the guardian that Lyralei had died believing her to be. Elena stepped back from the bed, her face set in grim determination. "Admiral," she called out, "prep the fleet for immediate departure, and send word to every ship, every colony, every outpost in Alliance space." "What message, Your Majesty?" Elena looked one last time at Lyralei's silver face. "Tell them we're at war." The search for the refugee ships began within the hour. Elena's flagship, the Prometheus, led a task force of 12 vessels toward the coordinates Lyralei had burned into her mind. The star charts were unlike anything in human databases, 3-dimensional maps that seemed to account for gravitational currents and temporal distortions no human navigator had ever considered. "These readings don't make sense," Navigator Walsh reported from the bridge. "According to this, there should be a ship hiding in the shadow of Proxima Tau's second moon, but our scans show nothing." Elena studied the alien star chart, letting Lyralei's knowledge flow through her memory. "Try scanning for crystalline structures instead of metal hulls. Their ships are grown, not built." The scanner array adjusted its frequency. Immediately, a massive signature bloomed on the screen. A vessel twice the size of the Prometheus, its surface rippling like frozen water. "By the gods!" Admiral Chen breathed. "It's beautiful." The Zephyrian ship hung motionless against the moon's gray surface, its crystal hull refracting starlight into rainbow patterns. But as the Prometheus drew closer, Elena could see the damage. Great cracks running through the ship's structure, sections that flickered between transparency and opacity. "They're dying," Elena realized. The ship itself is alive, and it's dying. Her communications officer looked up from his station. "Your Majesty, we're receiving a transmission. But it's not radio or laser, it's something else entirely. Put it through." The bridge filled with a sound like singing crystal, pure and heartbreakingly beautiful. Then words began to emerge from the melody, translated somehow by the knowledge Lyralei had given her. "Unknown vessels, this is Haven's song of the scattered fleet. We hear the echo of Lyralei's voice in your transmissions. Are you the ones she called guardians of the warm worlds?" Elena stepped forward. "This is Queen Elena Vasquez of the Solar Alliance. Lyralei died saving my life, but not before she told me about the children. We're here to help." Silence stretched across space. Then, impossible. "Your species is too young, too violent. Lyralei would never. She showed me Zephyris burning." Elena's voice carried across the void. "I felt your people's final moments. I know what's coming in 2 days, and I know you have children aboard who need protecting." Another pause. Then the crystal song resumed, softer now, filled with grief and desperate hope. "Permission to come aboard, Guardian Queen, but know that what you see may change you forever." Elena looked at her senior staff. Admiral Chen shook his head slightly. The smart move was to maintain distance, establish proper protocols. But Elena thought of Lyralei's dying words, of the images of genocide burned into memory. "Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. I'm going across." The docking bay of the Zephyrian ship felt like stepping into a living cathedral. The walls pulsed with soft light, and the air itself seemed to sing. Elena's escort, Commander Torres and 2 royal guards, stayed close as a figure approached from the ship's depths. The being that greeted them was tall and graceful, with the same silver skin as Lyralei, but bearing intricate tattoos that spiraled across her arms like growing vines. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that made Elena's bones resonate. "I am Astrid, speaker for Havensong. You carry the echo of our guardian's final gift. This alone grants you safe passage, but nothing more. We have learned caution in our exile." Elena bowed, hoping the gesture translated, "I carry something else as well. The coordinates of your scattered fleet, and knowledge of how much time we have before the Devourers arrive." Astrid's luminous eyes widened. "You speak the forbidden name. How do you—" She stopped, studying Elena's face. "She gave you more than coordinates. She gave you the deep knowing. If that's what you call the ability to understand your star charts and feel your ship's pain, then yes." Elena gestured to the flickering walls around them. "This vessel is dying. How many others are in the same condition? 7 of 12 retain full life. The others fade daily. Without the homeworld song to sustain them, our living ships cannot regenerate." Astrid's composure cracked slightly. "The children especially suffer. They were born to crystal cities and singing towers. These cramped ships, this endless flight, it breaks their spirits as surely as the Devourers broke our world." Elena felt the weight of 2 civilizations pressing on her shoulders. "Show me!" They walked deeper into the ship, through corridors that curved and branched like arteries. Elena realized the ship wasn't just alive, it was bred for space travel, as different from human vessels as a whale from a submarine. The children's quarters made Elena's heart stop. They were beautiful, silver-skinned like their parents, but with an innocence that transcended species. Some played with toys that looked like miniature stars. Others sang in small groups, their voices weaving harmonies that made the ship's walls glow brighter. But Elena could see the sadness in their movements, the way they pressed against the windows looking for a home that no longer existed. 43 children survived the evacuation," Astrid said quietly. 43 futures of our entire species. They remember snatches of the old songs, fragments of our history, but memory fades without a world to anchor it. A small girl approached Elena, her violet eyes curious. She said something in the liquid Zephyrian language. Astrid translated. "She asks if you are the warm world mother who will give us a new song." Elena knelt to the child's level. Without conscious thought, she began to hum, a lullaby her own grandmother had sung, simple and comforting. The Zephyrian girl's eyes lit up, and she began to echo the melody back, her voice adding harmonies that made the simple tune into something transcendent. Other children gathered around, joining in. Soon the entire chamber resonated with the hybrid song, human lullaby and alien harmony weaving together into something entirely new. Tears tracked down Astrid's silver cheeks. "She called you truly. You are the guardian queen." Elena stood, the children still singing around her. "I'm trying to be. But I need information. The Devourers. What are they? How do we fight them?" Astrid's expression darkened. "They are hunger-given form. They consume entire worlds, strip them down to component atoms. But first, they study their prey, learn their weaknesses, adapt their weapons." Lyralei survived their initial attack. How? She was in deep meditation when they came. Her consciousness merged with her ship. When they disintegrated the vessel, part of her essence transferred to the escape pod. Astrid paused, but the effort should have killed her instantly. That she lived long enough to find you, it suggests the deep knowing chose you specifically. Elena felt the alien knowledge stirring in her mind. Not just star charts now, but deeper understanding of Zephyrian technology, their history, their desperate hope. They're not just destroyers, are they? The Devourers. They're looking for something. Astrid nodded grimly. The source code, the fundamental frequency that gives life to crystalline song. With it, they could remake the galaxy in their image, endless hunger consuming everything that lives. The children's song faltered as they sensed the adults' fear. Elena reached out, her hands finding tiny silver fingers, anchoring the melody again. Do any of you carry this source code? We all do. It's what makes us Zephyrian. But the children, Astrid's voice broke. The children carry it purest, unfiltered by adult fear and compromise. If the Devourers capture them, Elena understood. The children weren't just survivors. They were the key to everything their enemy wanted. And in 2 days, that enemy would arrive to claim them. She looked around the chamber, at 43 children who trusted her to keep them safe, at a dying ship that had carried them across impossible distances, at the weight of a species' survival resting on her decisions. Astrid, Elena said quietly, I need you to contact the other ships, all of them. It's time to stop running. The speaker's eyes widened. Guardian Queen, we are civilians, refugees. We have no weapons, no warships. No, Elena interrupted. You have something better. You have children worth fighting for, and now you have me. She activated her communicator. Admiral Chen, prepare for an emergency fleet recall. I want every ship in Alliance space here within 24 hours. And send a priority message to Earth Command. I'm invoking the Extinction Protocol. Chen's voice crackled back, shocked. Your Majesty, the Extinction Protocol is reserved for threats to human survival. This is a threat to all survival, Admiral. Human, Zephyrian, and every other species in this galaxy. The enemy arrives tomorrow. Today, we become the line that holds. Elena looked at the children, still singing their hybrid lullaby, their voices weaving human warmth with alien beauty. Tomorrow, the Devourers would come for them. Tomorrow, they would have to go through her first. The Alliance fleet began arriving within hours, destroyers and carriers emerging from hyperspace jumps like metal thunderclouds. Elena watched from the bridge of Haven Song as her ships took defensive positions around the 12 crystal vessels of the refugee fleet. Unprecedented, Admiral Chen reported over the comm. 96 ships answered the recall, every available vessel in Alliance space. Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on the tactical display Astrid had helped her create. A three-dimensional map showing not just ship positions, but the harmonic frequencies of the Zephyrian vessels and the gravitational currents the enemy would use to approach. They'll come from the Galactic Rim, she said, pointing to a section of empty space that made Chen frown. Not through normal space, through the deep void between stars. How can you be certain? Elena touched her temple, where Lyralei's memories still pulsed. Because that's how they destroyed Zephyris. They don't just attack, they isolate, cut their targets off from any possible escape or reinforcement. The children had been distributed among the Alliance ships, not as prisoners, but as honored guests, whose safety took priority over everything else. Elena had insisted on keeping the youngest, a girl named Silandra, aboard the Haven Song itself. She carries the purest source code, Astrid had explained. If something happens to the rest of us, Elena had understood. The 6-year-old was quite literally the future of her species, and the most dangerous prize their enemy could claim. Silandra sat in the bridge's corner now, playing with a toy that projected miniature holographic stars. Occasionally, she would look up at Elena and smile, completely unaware that armies were gathering to kill or capture her. Contact from Earth Command, the communications officer announced. Fleet Admiral Morrison wants to speak with you directly. Elena's jaw tightened. Morrison was old-school military, the kind of man who saw aliens as inherently suspect and queens as political nuisances. On screen, Morrison's granite face filled the viewer, his expression thunderous. Your Majesty, I've reviewed your reports. You're asking me to commit the entire Alliance fleet to protecting unknown aliens based on the visions of a dead refugee. I'm asking you to help me save 43 children from genocide, Admiral. The fact that it might also save our species is just a bonus. These Devourers you describe, if they can disintegrate matter itself, what makes you think our conventional weapons can harm them? Elena glanced at Astrid, who nodded encouragingly. Because they need to study their prey first. They adapt their weapons to overcome each species' defenses, but that means they have to lower their own shields to scan us. There's a window, maybe seconds, when they're vulnerable. Morrison's scowl deepened. You're gambling the entire fleet on maybes and seconds. The alternative is waiting for them to reach Earth and discover our weaknesses at their leisure. Elena's voice carried the authority that had united 3 star systems. Admiral, I've seen what they did to Zephyris. I felt 1 billion people die in an instant. That's coming for us whether we fight now or later. I prefer to choose the battlefield. A pause. Then Morrison nodded grimly. The Terra Defense Fleet is en route, ETA 18 hours. As the connection closed, Elena felt a small hand slip into hers. Silandra looked up at her with those impossibly wise violet eyes. "You're scared," the child said in perfect accented English. Elena blinked in surprise. "I thought you didn't speak our language." "I learned fast. All Zephyrian children do. It's how we survived when the song teachers died." Salandra's grip tightened. "You're scared, but you're staying anyway. That makes you brave like Guardian Lyralei." Elena knelt, bringing herself to the child's eye level. "Are you scared, little one?" Elendra considered this seriously. "Yes, but Astrid says fear is just love that doesn't know where to put itself. I love Haven's song and my friends and the warm world people who sing different songs, so my fear has lots of places to go." Elena felt tears threatening. This child, this impossibly wise, innocent child, was what they were fighting for. Not just her, but what she represented. The possibility of beauty and wonder, surviving in a galaxy that seemed bent on consuming both. "Salandra, if something happens tomorrow, if the bad people come and things get dangerous, I need you to promise me something." The girl nodded solemnly. "Promise me you'll keep singing. No matter what happens, keep singing your songs. Can you do that?" "Yes, Guardian Queen." "But..." Salandra paused, her small face troubled. "What if I forget the words?" Elena smiled, remembering the lullaby that had brought 2 species together in harmony. "Then you make up new ones. The best songs are the ones we create when we need them most." Hours passed. The fleet grew larger as ships continued to arrive. Not just Alliance vessels now, but independent traders, mining ships, even a few converted luxury yachts, whose owners had heard Elena's broadcasts and chosen to stand with her. "Magnificent insanity," Admiral Chen observed, watching a tiny courier ship take position alongside a massive dreadnought. "Half these ships have no business in a combat zone." Elena nodded, but she was remembering something Lyralei had shown her. The final moments of Zephyris, when civilians had thrown their unarmed ships at the Devourers in desperate attempts to buy escape time for the children. Courage wasn't about having the right weapons. It was about choosing to stand when standing was necessary. "Signal from deep space sensors," the tactical officer reported suddenly. "Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace. Distance 1 light hour and closing." Elena felt her heart stop. How many? Still calculating, but at least 30 vessels. But configuration unknown. They're not using conventional drives. Astrid moved to her station, her fingers dancing across crystalline controls. The Zephyrian sensors painted a different picture, one that made her silver skin pale to white. 47 ships, she whispered. Devourer class. They've brought their entire strike fleet. Elena looked around the bridge, at human officers trying to hide their terror, at Astrid struggling with memories of her world's destruction, at Salandra humming quietly in the corner, oblivious to the approaching darkness. In 12 hours, the most one-sided battle in galactic history would begin. 47 vessels capable of disintegrating matter itself against a hastily assembled fleet of ships never designed to fight such an enemy. But as Elena watched Silandra's toy stars dance in miniature orbits, she realized something important. The Devourers were expecting to face desperate refugees and primitive humans. They weren't expecting to face a queen who had been gifted the knowledge of a dying guardian, children who carried the music of creation itself, and a fleet of people who had chosen to stand together rather than die separately. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe hope had its own kind of weapon. Elena activated the fleet-wide communications array. All ships, this is Queen Elena Vasquez. In 12 hours, we face an enemy that has never known defeat. They expect us to run. They expect us to break. They expect us to surrender the innocent to save ourselves. She paused, looking at Salandra. They're about to learn why that was a mistake. The sensors screamed as the first wave of Devourer ships dropped out of hyperspace. Elena gripped the command rail, watching death materialize on the tactical display. Sleek black vessels that seemed to absorb light itself, their hulls rippling with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Range: 50,000 kilometers and closing, Admiral Chen reported from his flagship. All ships, battle stations. Elena studied the enemy formation through Lyralei's inherited knowledge. The Devourers moved like a swarm, but there was pattern beneath the chaos, a mathematical precision that spoke of hive mind intelligence. They weren't just hunters, they were a collective consciousness devoted to consumption. "Astrid," Elena called out, "are you reading their scan frequencies?" The speaker bent over her crystalline instruments, her face grim. "Active scanning across all spectrums. They're cataloging our weapons, our hull composition, our energy signatures. How long before they adapt? Minutes, maybe less." Astrid looked up, her violet eyes reflecting the tactical display's crimson warnings. "Once they understand our capabilities, their hulls will become immune to everything we can throw at them." Elena activated the fleet comm. "All ships, this is the Queen. You are witnessing the opening moves of the galaxy's most perfect predator, but they have one weakness: arrogance. They believe understanding equals victory. Let's teach them otherwise." The first Devourer ship peeled away from the formation, approaching at impossible speed. Elena watched it come, remembering Lyralei's final moments aboard another doomed vessel. "Target the lead ship," she ordered. "All batteries, maximum yield." The Alliance fleet erupted in coordinated fire. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and nuclear warheads converged on the approaching Devourer in a display that should have vaporized any known vessel. The enemy ship absorbed every blast without slowing. Its hull rippled, energy cascading across its surface like water, and it emerged from the barrage completely unharmed. "Impossible," Chen breathed over the comm. Elena felt Lyralei's knowledge flowing through her mind, showing her what the sensors couldn't detect. Not impossible. Adaptive. Their hull composition is shifting in real time, becoming immune to each weapon type as it hits them. The Devourer ship opened fire. The beam that emerged was like concentrated darkness, not just the absence of light, but the negation of existence itself. It struck the Alliance destroyer warrior's pride, directly amidships. Elena watched in horror as the proud warship simply ceased. Not destroyed, not exploded, unmade. Where a 1,000-meter vessel had been, now there was only empty space and the screams of its escort ship's proximity alarms. "Dear God," someone whispered. Salandra stopped humming. "All ships evasive action," Elena ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Do not let them get a target lock." But the Devourer fleet was spreading out, their impossible weapons reaching across space to touch ship after ship. Each beam meant death. Not just for the crew, but for the very atoms that had comprised their vessels. Molecular disruption on a scale that violated every law of physics Elena knew. "We can't fight them," Admiral Chen called out, his voice breaking. "Your Majesty, we need to evacuate the alien ships and retreat. If we lose the fleet, if we retreat, they follow us to Earth," Elena snapped. "There is no retreat from extinction." She turned to Astrid. "The source code. You said they want it. What happens if they get it? They become creators instead of destroyers, but creators in their own image. A galaxy consumed by endless hunger, where nothing exists that cannot be devoured." Elena stared out at the enemy fleet, watching Alliance ships disappear one by one. Conventional tactics were useless here. Conventional weapons couldn't touch them. "But maybe the children," Elena said suddenly. "You said they carry the Pura source code? Can they use it?" Astrid's eyes widened. "They're children, not warriors. The source code requires perfect harmony, absolute unity of purpose. To weaponize it," she shook her head, "it would be asking them to become something they were never meant to be." Another ship vanished. Then another. The Devourers moved through Elena's fleet like death incarnate, their dark hulls reflecting the explosions of dying vessels. Elena looked at Salandra, who had gone pale and silent, watching the tactical display with those two wise eyes. "What if we don't weaponize it?" Elena asked. "What if we do the opposite?" Before Astrid could respond, the communications array lit up with an incoming transmission. Not from her fleet, but from the enemy. "Display it!" Elena ordered, the main screen filled with an image that made her skin crawl. The being that looked back at her was humanoid in basic shape, but wrong in every detail. Its flesh was the color of tarnished metal. Its eyes were black voids that seemed to pull light into themselves. And when it spoke, its voice was the sound of grinding gears. I am the harvester of the ninth consumption. You are the queen entity of the local prey species. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant. Surrender the source bearers and your death will be swift. Elena stepped forward, conscious that she was speaking for her entire species. I am Elena Vasquez, Queen of the Solar Alliance. The children you want are under my protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through every ship in this fleet. The harvester tilted its head, studying her. Curious. Your neural patterns suggest you understand the futility of resistance, yet you persist. Why? Elena thought of Lyralei's dying words, of Salandra's innocent trust, of a billion voices crying out across the void as Zephyris burned. Because someone has to. The harvester made a sound that might have been laughter if it hadn't been so mechanically cold. Acceptable. Your suffering will provide valuable data on local pain responses. The transmission cut. Elena turned to find every eye on the bridge staring at her. Human and Zephyrian alike, waiting for orders that might save them or damn them all. Astrid, she said quietly, tell me about perfect harmony. The final phase began at dawn, ship time. Elena stood in Haven Song's central chamber, surrounded by 43 Zephyrian children, whose silver faces reflected her determination. Outside the crystal walls, the space battle raged, Alliance ships dancing desperately around enemy vessels that harvested them like wheat. The harmony cannot be forced, Astrid explained, her hands moving in ritual patterns. It must arise from pure intention, unified purpose. When the ancient masters achieved it, mountains moved. Stars changed course, but the cost, what cost? Those who channel the source code become part of it. They transcend individual existence. Astrid's voice carried infinite sadness. The children would survive, but they would no longer be children. They would become something beyond flesh, beyond time. Elena felt the weight of impossible choices. Save the children by destroying their innocence, or watch them die as the galaxy fell to endless hunger. Salandra tugged at her hand. Guardian Queen, may I ask something? Elena knelt. Always, little one. Is it bad to change if you change to help people? The question hit Elena like a physical blow. She looked at the child's serious face, at the trust there, at the willingness to sacrifice everything for others. Sometimes, Elena said softly, change is the bravest thing we can do. The ship shuddered as a devourer beam passed close by. Through the crystal walls, Elena could see the Prometheus limping away from 3 enemy vessels, her hull glowing with heat damage. All right, Elena said, standing. What do we need to do? Astrid gestured to the children. They must sing together, not just with their voices, but with their very essence, and someone must guide them. Someone who carries the deep knowing. Elena's blood chilled. The deep knowing. That's what Lyralei gave me. Yes, but to guide the children in harmony, you would have to give yourself completely to the source code. You would become the focal point for their transformation. Elena understood. To save everyone else, she would have to stop being Elena Vasquez and become something else entirely. Another explosion lit the crystal walls. The tactical display showed only 23 Alliance ships remaining. Elena activated her communicator, Admiral Chen. Full retreat. Get every surviving ship out of the system. Protest. Your Majesty, we're not leaving you. Protest. That's in order, Admiral. Whatever happens next, make sure Earth knows. Make sure they remember. She cut the connection and looked at the children gathered around her. 43 futures. 43 reasons to try the impossible. Children of Zephyris, she said, surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Will you help me save the galaxy? They nodded as one. Salandra stepped forward. We're ready, Guardian Queen. But will it hurt? Elena knelt and gathered the child in her arms. I don't know, little one, but whatever happens, we do it together. The children joined hands, forming a circle with Elena at its center. Astrid stood at the chamber's edge, tears streaming down her silver cheeks as she began to sing the ancient words of the source code. Elena felt the change begin immediately. The knowledge Lyralei had given her started to resonate, harmonizing with the children's pure intentions. Reality began to bend around them. The Devourer fleet, sensing what was happening, turned their full attention to Haven's song. Disruptor beams converged on the crystal ship from every direction and bounced away like rain-offs from a mountainside. Elena felt herself expanding, her consciousness touching each of the children, feeling their fears and hopes and dreams bleeding into her own. She was still Elena, but also something more, a conductor for voices that could rewrite the fundamental forces of creation. The children began to sing. It started as the lullaby Elena had hummed days ago, but it grew and changed as 43 young voices added their own harmonies. The crystal ship began to glow, its walls becoming transparent, then translucent, then something beyond physical matter entirely. Elena felt the source code flowing through her, understanding flooding her mind. She could see how the Devourers worked. They consumed matter by disrupting the quantum foundations that held atoms together. But the source code operated on a deeper level. It didn't destroy or consume, it created. It healed, it restored, and Elena suddenly knew what they had to do. "Children," she called out, her voice carrying across dimensions now. "Don't fight them. Don't destroy them. Show them what they've forgotten." The song changed. Instead of defensive barriers, it became something else. A melody that reached across space to touch the Devourer ships, to slip past their adaptive hulls and speak directly to whatever consciousness guided them. For the first time in eons, the Harvester faltered. The images flooded the Devourer fleet. Not memories of destruction, but memories of what they had been before the hunger consumed them. Cities of light, worlds where children played beneath twin suns, civilizations that created instead of consuming. They had been called something else once, before the hunger. Before the endless appetite, they had been the builders. The nearest Devourer ship stopped firing, then another. Then the entire fleet hung motionless as the children's song reached into the darkness of their collective mind and reminded them of light. Elena felt herself dissolving and reforming, becoming a bridge between species, between past and future, between destruction and hope. She was the queen of two worlds now. The human empire she had led, and the Zephyrian children she protected, and something else entirely. The Harvester's voice crackled across all frequencies, no longer mechanical but filled with something Elena barely recognized as wonder. "We remember. How do we stop?" Elena, no longer quite human, no longer quite individual, replied with the voice of infinite compassion. "The same way you started, one choice at a time." The transformation took 7 days. Elena watched from existence that was part physical, part energy, part pure consciousness as the former Devourer fleet worked alongside Alliance vessels to repair the damage they had caused. Ship by ship, atom by atom, they rebuilt what they had destroyed. The children had not lost their innocence, Elena realized. They had transformed it into something stronger. Wisdom coupled with hope, power tempered by compassion. They aged before her eyes, becoming young adults with silver skin and starlight hair, but their laughter remained pure. Salandra approached what Elena had become, a presence that existed in the spaces between matter, visible only as shifting patterns of light. "Guardian Queen, are you still you?" Elena considered this. She remembered being Elena Vasquez. She remembered her human life, her queen's duties, her flesh and blood existence. But she was also something larger now, something that belonged to the space between stars. "I am what I chose to become," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality ripple. "And I choose to keep watching over you." The former Harvester approached, its metallic form already beginning to show changes, less angular, more organic. The deep knowing that transformed them. "We hunger for it, still, but differently now. We hunger to understand, not to consume." Elena nodded, understanding. "Then learn. Help us build something better." Admiral Chen's voice crackled across subspace from the approaching Alliance fleet. "Your Majesty, Earth Command is asking for a full report. How do I explain what happened here?" Elena considered this, watching Zephyrian children and former Devourers working side by side to repair Havensong's crystal hull. "Tell them," she said, that a queen learned the difference between ruling and serving. Tell them that children taught monsters to remember love. Tell them that the galaxy just became large enough for everyone. She paused, feeling the source code humming through dimensions she was only beginning to understand. And tell them that sometimes the best victories are the ones where everyone gets to go home. Salandra laughed, the sound making nearby stars pulse in rhythm. Around them, 3 species worked together to heal the wounds of war, building something entirely new from the ashes of what they had been. Elena smiled, an expression that existed in probability waves rather than facial muscles, and settled in to watch over them all. After all, she had promised to stay. And queens, even transformed ones, always kept their promises.